What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe back with my Dynasty rookie rankings for 2022 season. Going to be breaking down which rookies I would be taking first in my draft. Check out my rankings from last year. I had Jamar Chase as my number one overall player. I had Kyle Pitts number two. I think if you were drafted either of those players, you'd be pretty happy with them in Dynasty formats right now. Um, so yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section down below. Let me know who you guys are taking number one in rookie drafts. Let me know your biggest, um, let me know the biggest ranking that you disagree with from my rankings. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. My number one player is still Jameson Williams, if I can spell his name right. The reason Jameson Williams is still my number one overall player, I just think if you're drafting with the number one overall pick in a rookie draft, you probably, unless you traded for it, your team probably is not in a very good position. So I wouldn't worry about, the first quarter of a season or whatever it's going to be if you're not close to competing. I would just draft the best player available, who I still think went to a solid destination with the Detroit Lions and Jameson Williams. I just think he is a difference maker from the other people at his position. And I think that he is in a situation where once he starts playing, he'll be able to acquire a large target volume, which brings me to our number two player. Speaking of a guy who can have a large target volume, Drake London from the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe I should start. Yeah, let's throw Detroit, and then let's throw in an ATL right there. But Drake London, yeah, the reason I have him at number two, I again believe a lot in the talent. He's my number two receiver coming into the draft. And the reason that I am so high on him landing in Atlanta, they have no wide receivers. They have Kyle Pitts. Russell Gage was probably their best receiver last year. He's gone in free agency. Calvin Ridley suspended. Drake London has a road path or a path to 130 plus targets as a rookie. Not many players get this. A lot of these guys, I'm looking for 100 targets or so. He's going to get 130. He's a highly talented player who's big, has size, can win jump balls, it can run good routes. That's why he's my number two player. Another thing I want to throw out there, though, let's say these top 3-4 players I'm going to rank, let's say your team's a little bit more running back needy than wide receiver needy. I usually like to take wide receivers at the top of dynasty drafts because I think wide receivers shelf life lasts a little longer than these backs, and in 3 to 5 years, a lot of these running backs are, could be at the end of it. But a lot of these receivers, if you're not going to hit, it doesn't matter. And if you need a receiver desperately or you need a running back desperately, I don't think there's any issue with taking Breece Hall, my number 3 player, with the number 1 overall pick in your drafts. He went to the Jets. Breece Hall is an absolute stud. He caught 82 passes at Iowa State. With the high draft capital, I'm not too worried about Michael Carter. I do still think he'll be involved, but I think Breece Hall will be the lion's share of this work. They have a solid offensive line with some of the guys they brought in. Mekhi Becton's a good run blocker. Elijah Vera Tucker, who they drafted at guard last year, is a good run blocker. So that left side of the line is solid. And yeah, Breece Hall can just do a lot of things. He produced a ton in college, had a 40-inch vertical at the draft, was super explosive, ran a fast time. He really checks every single box that you're looking for as far as an NFL running back. Another guy who checks a lot of the boxes is Kenneth Walker. Got taken by Seattle. I'm super excited about Kenneth Walker in that landing spot. I do think Chris Carson's career is probably over by the high draft capital they spent on him. I think they brought Rashad Penny back. I think Penny could be the guy. Obviously Penny was a first-round pick and never really won the job over. So Kenneth Walker being a second-round pick doesn't mean he's just going to step day one into this job. But I do think it gives him a really good chance. I think he's a really good running back, especially for what Pete Carroll's looking to do. They want somebody they can turn around and hand it to. Not necessarily looking for the biggest pass catcher, and that's certainly not in Kenneth Walker's production profile from college at this point. Didn't catch a ton of passes, has the skill set. We'll see how that develops in the league. But I think he's a guy who could get the ball over 200 plus times this year and really help out some people's fantasy teams, especially long term in Seattle, a team that wants to run the ball. Treylon Burks was traded for A.J. Brown. This opens up, it's him, Robert Woods coming off a torn ACL, so I think he's in as far as rookies go, a pretty good chance to, secure some targets in year one, first round draft capital, obviously. So I think that helps. And I think they wouldn't have drafted him if they weren't confident that he could come in and produce early because they are a team that, is competing right now. And obviously they're number one seed in the AFC last year with A.J. Brown. I think that, they're obviously trying to win a Super Bowl right now, Derrick Henry and Tannehill and all these guys. So, not necessarily saying they'll win the Super Bowl, but I do think Treylon Burks will be involved for fantasy. Bringing us to our next player. This might come as a surprise for some. It's Christian Watson. And the reason being, I think he's raw, and I think you might struggle early, but he is taken by the Packers, obviously. I think in year 2, he's a guy who's got great athleticism scores. He's 6'4", ran a 4.36, had close to a 40-inch vertical, had a 136-inch broad jump. Great explosive numbers for a large player. Sure, he didn't play great competition in college, but so that might take him some time to adjust to the NFL level. But he's got all the physical tools. He's in a landing spot with an elite quarterback for at least the next 2 seasons, maybe even 3. So that's why I have Christian Watson so high. If he gets those 3 years with Aaron Rodgers, it's really pretty difficult to project any longer than 3 years. And so who knows where these next guys will be when that time comes. But I'm pretty high on Christian Watson compared to the community. Next up, Chris Olave. I think one of the most NFL-ready wide receivers from this draft. Really liked his tape. Just smooth. Runs great routes. I think he'll get open. I think he might have one of the better chances to get 1,000 yards as a rookie just because of how NFL ready he is. The quarterback position there is a little, leaves some to be desired. Obviously, Michael Thomas is there, but I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now, Michael Thomas might be on some other team and Chris Olave could be the one for this team. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying crazier things have happened. I really like the Chris Olave as a talent. I think he went to a better situation than people really realize. Number 8 player, Garrett Wilson. Only reason I'm a little bit down on Garrett Wilson, I guess, compared to community, I really like Garrett Wilson, but he's with Zach Wilson. You got a guy like Elijah Moore who has a similar, somewhat body type to him. I think Garrett Wilson will probably play on the outside. Elijah Moore will probably play a little bit more in the slot. We'll see how they utilize all those guys. But they also have Corey Davis still remaining there, Braxton Berrios. There's more competition for targets is the main reason why he's down a little bit farther on this list. I still like him long-term, think he's a great player. Obviously, we'll be taking most drafts a little higher than this. But just me adjusting for, the competition that he has compared to some of these other players. Our number 9 player, this is another guy I might be a little bit high on compared to the community. It's Damien Pierce. Running back from Florida, was a 4th-round draft pick by Houston. Damien Pierce from Houston at 9, 4th-round draft pick. Really like the film on him, averaged 5.7 yards per carry in his last year at Florida in the SEC. Has decent hands, doesn't have necessarily super high-end explosiveness. I know a lot of people have compared him to Kareem Hunt, and I see the hard running, that nature, that physical game that they both bring. I think he's going to be a load to tackle in the NFL. I don't know if he has necessarily the burst that Kareem Hunt had, but I think he'll be very good in the NFL. I think he is in a position with Rex Burkhead and some of the other backs on his team, Marlon Mack, where he could come in as a rookie, get a lot of work, and be, an RB2 for people's team. I think as early as my number 10 player is James Cook, running back from Buffalo. They spent a 2nd-round pick on him. The only reason he's not higher than Dameon Pierce is just, sure, he's on the better offense, has more touchdown upside. I agree with all those things, but I do think he's more the 8 to 12 touch per game type of back, unless he puts on weight. I think he will be more of a committee guy. I think Dameon Pierce has a better job at the whole pie. But I do think James Cook will be really good and efficient per touch basis in the NFL. He's got that explosiveness. But yeah, just not fully sure how much he'll be utilized early on in this offense. I think he will be involved. I just don't know if, I don't think I ever see him being a 20-touch back. My number 11 player is Skyy Moore, wide receiver for Kansas City. Skyy Moore can win the inside, can win the outside. A lot of opportunity there in KC right now. Landed with Patrick Mahomes, a guy I'm super excited about that I think you can land in that 8 to 12 pick range in the first round of a lot of your drafts, maybe even the 2nd round of some rookie dynasty drafts. I think he's a guy who's going to be a great value because of that offense, because of how NFL ready he is. He runs NFL routes. And like I said, that ability to play both on the inside and the outside. Great 2nd-round pick by the Chiefs, and a guy I think who'd come in right away and contribute. Our number 12 player here, Jahan Dotson from Washington. They took him, the Commanders. He's a guy I think, especially if they move on from Terry McLaurin, which this draft it doesn't look like they will. But if they don't want to pay that heavy wide receiver price tag, he could potentially be the one in this team a year from now. I really liked Jahan Dotson's game. I thought, the only real knock I had on him as a prospect was a little bit undersized. But good speed, good route running ability, good explosiveness, all that stuff you gotta like. He's got good hands, really produced at Penn State, and he's just a good football player, so I think he'll continue to produce in the NFL level. Moving on to our number 13 player, first quarterback, Kenny Pickett. The reason that I have him here is because he was drafted in the first round by Pittsburgh. I think this is just going to give him more time to sit around and compete. Not many to sit around. I think he's got a really good chance of playing year one. He's almost 24 years old. They spent a first-round pick on him. I imagine it's to play him early and often. And he might not have the highest ceiling for fantasy, but I think of these quarterbacks, everyone else was drafted in the third round or later. Not much team commitment to them. Not much opportunity to play early, except for one of these other guys that we'll talk about later. So that's why I have Kenny Pickett at 13 ahead of these other quarterbacks. 14, Alec Pierce, wide receiver from the Colts. Pick 53 in the draft. Really like this, the fact that he went the second round and went to a team that doesn't have a ton of weapons there currently. He's 6'3", ran a 4.41, I believe, at the combine. Good size, good speed. Really produced in Cincinnati. I didn't get the ball a ton, but I think, with Matt Ryan there and the opportunity he'll have to play early as a rookie with him and Pittman, he's a guy I wouldn't be surprised if he produced a lot earlier than people anticipate. My number 15 player, Isaiah Spiller. He landed with the almost at San Diego with the LA Chargers. Wow, my computer's just going nuts right now with the Chargers. Spiller, I think, is a good back. Doesn't have necessarily that explosion and probably won't be utilized early on a first down basis, but I think he'll be utilized on an early down basis. I don't think he'll be utilized on third down because of Austin Eckler there, but I think they needed another running back, somebody who can take that load, somebody who can take some of those goal line carries away from Eckler, to be honest with you, even though he's highly efficient at it. I think just with his body and that workload, you want to get a little more off his plate. They can easily hand that to Spiller. He's capable of doing that and more if need be. So really nice pick by the Chargers there, and I think he's a guy who will have an opportunity to spell Austin Eckler early. And my last player here, it's Matt Corral. I think he will end up playing this year, to be honest with you. Drafted by the Carolina Panthers in the third round. He's got a good arm, quick release. Some things about alcohol and things that made him slip a little bit in the draft process, but I think he'll be able to compete with Sam Darnold. And if Darnold doesn't come out and they don't win games, which would not surprise me, I think Matt Corral could play very early this year. If you guys have made it to this point in the video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. This has been Fantasy Joe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you.